The Marinade.
There's no O in Marinade. Let's try it one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
The Marinade.
Marinade.
Bone marinade.
That's
The Marinade.
The Marinade. With Jason Earle. Welcome to The Marinade with Jason Earle, a free-flowing conversation about the creative process with creative people. This is episode 72, and our guest is B.Miles. B.Miles is the pseudonym of Brenna Miles, a singer and songwriter originally from California, who now lives in New York. Her latest record is In Order of Appearance, which came out earlier this year. It is absolutely wonderful, and you can get your copy of In Order of Appearance at bmiles.co.
Could it be that I'm feeling time? A band meaning more than a family. That's why I think being a mother's easy. I'm trying.
Before we get to our conversation with B.Miles, I want to invite you to join our Patreon community, where for just a few bucks a month, you can gain access to Patreon exclusive content like our show Jason's Journey, where I talk about the moments that shape my creative life, as well as our Patreon happy hours. And that's why I bring it up at the front of the show this time, is that we have been having so much fun with these Patreon happy hours, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I've got a special guest. The last time we did it, we had Jordan Foley, who's a good friend of the show and good friend of mine, and an amazing singer and songwriter. We have another amazing singer-songwriter, and a huge, it's a surprise, but this person is one of the most beloved Marinade guests that we've ever had. So I'm so excited that this person said yes. It's a lot of fun, and you can join our Patreon community for as little as $2 a month. If you can't swing it, I understand. All the free ways to support the show are greatly appreciated too, but I wanted to just go ahead and put that invitation in at the front of the show in case you've always been considering it. It's fun, and it's a good way to connect with the show on a deeper level. All right, y'all. Without further ado, I am so excited. This was an absolute blast. This conversation was deep and fun and funny and all of the things that I want in a podcast conversation. My conversation with B.Miles.
I've never looked like this before. Could it be that I'm feeling time? A band meaning more than a family is why.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Thanks so much for being on the show. I'm really looking forward to talking with you. I've been loving the record, In Order of Appearance, and just a beautiful piece of work. And how do you feel? I mean, you're just a few days away from release.
It's kind of surreal, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've been working on this album since I moved to New York. So it's been in the writing process for almost 5 years now.
Wow.
So the fact that it's actually coming out it's just, it's a sigh of relief almost in a way.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to put this out for so long, so I can't wait.
Oh, good. 5 years. That's a long time to keep that creative thread going. And I do kind of want to get into that a little bit because one of the things that jumps out, and then reading more about your music too, that jumps out about what you do is that there's so many influences, and the sounds are, just you cover a sonic space, and you've got all kinds of different stuff in there. So how do you keep 5 years worth of work? How do you keep all of that coherent? What does the process look like for you?
To be honest, I think that the reason it just became such an extended process is, always wanting to go back and tweak something here, tweak something there. Oh, we can rewrite these lyrics. We can write it here. And, it's that constant wanting to make everything better. There's that saying, the song is finished when someone gives up. They want to walk away from it. So it's
I've never heard that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a good one, right?
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of different musical influences. You'll notice on the record, it kind of, the velocity changes quite a bit. It's really, really quiet in certain songs, and it's really loud in other songs. And the reason that we really wanted to keep it so polarizing was because of the two polarizing characters that were being portrayed in this album. Brenna, the normal everyday, and then B.Miles, performing at night to, sold out crowds and whatnot. And so there's been a few key influences that have stayed current throughout the entire process. And that's mostly been Tom Waits, Nick Cave, we love spaghetti Western, always want to incorporate that there. So those have been like the underlying kind of groundwork, I guess you would say. That's kind of the voice behind B.Miles and inspiration there.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And you tweeted the other day, not say the other day, it was back in September, which seems like 20 years ago, juggling my musical identity with an all too dry corporate persona is a game I've been forced to play each day in New York. And that comes out on this album as well. Can you say more about that? And I kind of want to get into like how a lot of people listening to the show, myself included, try to make these decisions about chasing their creative life while also having to pay the damn bills, right? So can you say more about that tension both in your life and then also as it comes out on the record?
Yeah, 100%. I moved to New York, right after I graduated college. There wasn't really a plan in place. It was kind of just, let's just go and figure it out. And once I arrived in New York, the music was the easy part, right? My band was already here. My writing partner was here. We were playing our very first gig at Mercury Lounge, I think. And everything was so exciting. Wow. The part that I didn't have figured out was I don't have anywhere to live and I don't have any money. And so, there is a harsh reality as a musician that it's really hard to make ends meet. And, performing doesn't necessarily, pay your rent. And so I ended up working at a very corporate, buttoned up kind of job during the day. And, it was so bizarre to me because I felt like I was these two different people day in and out. I'd get to the office at 8 a.m. and, full pantsuit, ready to go. And at 6 o'clock, I'm rushing out the door to go to sound check. And I have, my bag of performing clothes to change into and whatnot. And then it's 1 a.m. in the morning, I'm coming home and getting ready to go to bed so I can start work again in the morning. It was just bizarre. And it took a strong toll on my psyche in the beginning years when I first lived here. And you can hear that, I think, in the album. And we tried to portray that, just how much tension there was going on internally about, I don't know what to do, because, you always want to pursue your dreams. And it's something that is so important for everyone to chase. The only thing is that you have to have a way to support yourself to do that. And luckily, after living here for 5 years, I feel like I finally learned the balance. And so it's been a great payoff.
So what lessons have you learned to get you to that balance? How did you get there? That's hard. It's so hard. Like, I think I don't play much. I play open mics and stuff here and there. So every once in a while I get up on stage and play guitar, and sing sad songs. But
The best songs.
Yeah, right. I can agree with that. But I don't, but I'm not playing sold out shows. The energy from that is a different thing. Like sometimes I won't even go to a show because I got to get up so early and go to work. Right. I'll like interview an artist and be like, sorry, I'm not going to make it to your set. But you're up there, the one actually performing, and you're giving everything. I would imagine, like I've seen videos of your performances, and gosh, please get us back to normal so I can see you live. and all these other wonderful artists that I've missed and I haven't seen. But you're putting so much into it, and then you got to get up and go to button down job the next day. Like, what lessons did you learn over those 5 years? How did you get to that place, or however much time it was, the place to get to where you have a balance?
I think it just came down to, there was a moment where it just clicked, and it made sense to me that, not everybody has the opportunity to chase their dreams. And, this is something that's knocking at my door, and you just got to take it. And I think that was a humbling moment, thinking to myself, I'm able to do both of these things right now. I have the energy to do it. New York is the place to do it. It's got this crazy bustling energy from both sides. And, at the end of the day, when I really looked at myself and said, okay, you're B.Miles. This Brenna thing is just to help you get by. That's, when it really made sense to me, and it's been significantly easier to swallow each day.
Oh, interesting. What does that look like on a granular level? Like when you're at, or in practical, in practice at work, are you able to, I don't want to get you fired, but are you able to like to turn it off, turn off the creative brain and focus on the work, or are you like sitting there doing the work, whatever it is, and also melodies are flying around, trying to catch them, like what does that look like on a practical level?
Luckily, my day job is as far from creative as you can get. I'm talking solely Excel, solely numbers. So there is no transition of like, I'm never thinking of melodies at work, because it's just so like, everything fits in this box and all the numbers will make sense. Whereas, when I come home, or, when I move to a different room to play music now,
Right.
it's nice, because it's almost like I'm giving that critical thinking portion of my brain a break for the rest of the day. And the music and the creativity is almost like the payoff at the end of the day. Like, okay, you concentrated really hard all day. Now you get to have fun.
That's great. Yeah, that probably does help, having them be so different, because we talk a lot about creative capital on this show, and how, sometimes I'll have 14 projects going of various sorts, and I want to write this, and I want to interview this person, and I want to write this other thing, and then I want to take some photographs. And it's like having both the creative energy, but also the time to do all of those things. If you have that, if you're not flexing those creative muscles all day, then they're like pent up, ready to go. So it's almost like that might be kind of an advantage. So that's good.
No, I love it. I mean, my favorite thing when, we were in more normal times was, if I had a really frustrating day at work, I would just hop on the train on over to rehearsal and we would just, jam as loud as we could. And I'm screaming in the mic and I was like, this is the best kind of, way to blow off steam.
Oh, it's good medicine. It's such good therapy. I picked up my guitar the other day. I've been neglecting it, and I picked it up and played. I was working on a song, and I played for like an hour, and just had been too long since I sat and played for an hour. And afterward, I felt so good. Right? It's just such good therapy. Where did you move from to get to New York?
I moved from Pasadena in LA, born and raised there, and I just needed to do something different. I'd lived there my entire life, and once, my bandmates moved to New York, there was kind of not really a question at hand. It was, either you want to do this and you move to New York, or you build up an entire new community in LA. And I was so lucky to have this amazing community in New York that, what a terrible thought that I wouldn't be able to, work with them and make music with them.
Interesting. So when you are making that music, what does the writing process look like for you?
It changes from time to time. For the most part, my writing partner, Eric Nizgretsky, and I, we'll usually send each other ideas, melodic ideas that we have, usually just chords and melody, send that over to each other. And then we'll sit together in a room and kind of, hammer it out. Lyrics don't usually come until much later. There have been certain times where I have written, poems, and then we've tried to mold it to a melody, but I personally find it much more difficult to do it that way, rather than you have the melody, how many syllables you need, and you can, put your words to that.
How long, like from start of an idea to finished product, how long does that typically take for y'all? Are you like, you start exchanging those ideas and then it all comes together pretty quickly, or do you let songs sit and marinate for a while, and like, what does that look like?
It's pretty quick. I'd say for the most part, when we send each other an idea, it's almost like, oh, that's a great chorus. I actually wrote a verse and I didn't have a chorus for it to go with. So I think these will work out well together. And then we'll try and get the song completed in terms of, chords, melody, and structure, and try and finish that completely. And then we'll let that sit for a bit, and kind of see how that feels, and usually revisit in about, 2 weeks or so. And see if all parts of the song are still vibing. Do we think another part needs work? And then, the lyrics will probably start around then too.
What about the live show? So you've got a virtual release show coming up, and obviously everything's a lot different now, but just the live performance in general. What kind of, like, from a creative standpoint, how much creative energy are you putting into it, or is it much more organic for you guys?
So for this live show, we definitely had to think completely outside of the box. I mean, I've been dreaming of this album release show, for the last 5 years. And when I realized that we couldn't do one, it was kind of this, oh no, what do we do moment? Because performing is my favorite thing in the world. And so we thought that the best way to still have an album release show and still have a live performance was to make a virtual album release show. And it's going to be so cool.
Nice.
My buddy, Stephen Michael Simon, he's an incredible director and cinematographer. And, him, Eric, and myself just kind of got in the kitchen together and we're like, how do we make this, not just any sort of taped show, but something that's going to be really, really cool and people are going to want to see. So we have some incredible art installations in there, and it's going to be amazing. I highly recommend coming.
That's fun. I love that. Like, you know, obviously none of us had hoped or expected to be to go this long without live music in person, but it's been so great to see, and I hate that it had to happen, but how people have adapted and how they're bringing in multimedia and they're bringing in film, you know, filmography. And like when everything started, everyone's just sort of like in front of their like webcams playing,
Right?
you know, like
Yes.
with their like computers. They're good. That seems
Yes.
forever ago, doesn't it? But then I saw the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival last weekend, and they did this great job where they pre-taped everything, and they had, you know, the sound was great, and it was just like this. It was beautifully done, you know. So it's really cool to see. Of course, musicians are resilient. You know, you're gonna figure out a way to make it happen. So I hated that it happened that way, but I am excited to see some of the creative things that people are doing, and I hope that some of these virtual shows are a way that there's something that endures. I hope that, like,
Yes.
you know, because I
That's
feel
something.
like,
Yeah.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, like, so for example, my show, I mean, being able to do these on Zoom now, we never did this before. You know, we did phoners
Oh.
or like in person, and almost never did phoners. And so this has opened up a whole portal for me, you know, because the Zoom thing has made it not necessarily feel the same as being face to face, but at least like I can see you and I can see your, you know, your facial expressions, and, you know, are you interested, or am I boring you? You know, like I can tell that, whereas like on a phone, it's a little bit more difficult. And that's why I always hesitated to do phoners, you know, because I can just picture somebody in the background being like, you know, like on the phone, just like this guy. But if I can actually see you, it's a different thing. And I'm definitely going to, when we get back to normal, whenever that is, I'm definitely going to do a bunch more of these. So I hope that the same thing is true for other folks, especially musicians, because some of these things are looking great and you're getting to collaborate with other creative people that are outside of your field. It's cool.
I think, you know, at first I was so bummed that we weren't doing a live show, and now it's almost like I'm going to have this little treasure that I can keep with me forever. I'm going to show my grandkids one day. You know, it's
Right.
really nice to have, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, where there's been moments in your life where you've been at a show or you've been performing a show, and you know, you think to yourself after, oh, I really wish someone got that on tape.
Yeah.
And you know, we have that now, so I am really excited as well.
Good. Another thing that I really like about you that I've noticed is that the connection that you have with your fans. Like you just straight up invite them to email you, and you do all these like you do these personal little touches too, right? Where you like, if someone emails you, then you'll send them a voicemail, right? If I understand correctly. And can you talk about the connection with your fans and maybe why you put so much effort into that? Because it's clear you do.
Yeah, of course. You know, it's pretty simple for me. I can't thank, you know, the fans out there that have taken the time to listen to my music. You know, you throw your music out there, you don't know what's going to happen, and someone takes the time to not only listen to it, but maybe they even write you a message. I mean, that's a lot of effort right there. And I think that the least I can do is, you know, spend some time to tell someone thank you. And, you know, I know that in the past, when I've heard back from other artists that I've reached out to and they've taken the time to respond to me, you know, it makes a difference. It makes you feel different. And when you listen to their music, you look at the artists themselves differently. So we created this fun little email address. It's the title of one of the singles, Brenna at some9to5.com. And it's really fun because some people are, you know, kind of confused when they email it. They don't really know what they're getting into. And I'll just make them, you know, a video, talk to, you know, each fan directly.
Wow.
Because I think that when so much of the time on social media, you're just blasting stuff out. It's not personal. And I always want to make sure that the people that are taking time to listen to my music know that I appreciate them.
That's great. I can totally relate to what you said about how if you get a chance to talk to somebody or make a connection with them, then their art takes on a different dimension. And that's one side effect of this show that I don't necessarily, I'm not sure that I expected, was just the personal connections, both
Mm-hmm.
with the artists that I interview and then also the fans of the show, because we have this common ground. They're coming to the show because they like what we're talking about, or they're a fan of the artist that I'm interviewing. And so we already have that common ground. And I've made like good friends, with these otherwise total strangers and far reaches of the country, that it's really, really cool. And it makes me feel a little bit more passionate about what I'm doing, not that I wouldn't be anyway, but it makes a different connection in that way. So I think it's great that you're doing that. And I admire that quite a bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What are you getting down on these days? What are you listening to? What are you watching? Like just art that is inspiring. Are you reading a book right now that's got you fired up? Have you seen a painting or a sculpture that fired you up? Like art-wise, what are you excited about?
Art-wise, I have been actually reading quite a bit. I
Awesome.
find most of my lyric inspiration from reading. So I've been reading my classic favorites. I actually just moved the last couple of weeks, so things are still in boxes. I'm slowly unpacking, but the books that I have been able to unpack, my favorites, I love Orwell. And I love Aldous Huxley. So I just reread Brave New World.
Why'd you put yourself through that?
Yeah, so I was just going to say, I finished that book, and right after I was a moment of, oh, well, things are really, strange in this world. Cue right after I read a book about a disease that took over the world and ended, humanity in like 6 months. I don't know what I'm doing.
Why though? Because I'm so guilty too. I just finished The Plot Against America by Philip Roth, and it's like, but if you look at my bookshelf, it's just full of dystopian novels, and I've slowed down a little bit. But when my 20s, I that's all I read. Like I read Brave New World. I read 1984. I read Fahrenheit 451 3 times. Like all those books. Why do we do that to ourselves though, especially right now? Do you think it's healthy to do it, or do you think we're just like gluttons for punishment, or like what? Why why are you picking up Brave New World right now?
I honestly feel like sometimes it helps to think about the worst possible scenario for things, because if things are better than that, that you did okay. You're going to end up okay. Yes, it was not a smart decision to read Brave New World during this time, but it's almost like watching a horror movie. I mean, why do people watch horror movies? For adrenaline. They like to be on their toes. And I think that that's something that a lot of people are actually enjoying right now. I know like a lot of the, disease movies are streaming are going crazy right now. I think people just maybe want to feel excitement because we're, bored from being at home.
Yeah, that might be part of it too. That's a good point though, about trying to keep in perspective the worst case scenario too, and understanding, like somebody recently posted something about some year in the 1800s that was just like terrible, right? So there are keeping that perspective is difficult when we are glued to our screen so much, and when we are in echo chambers too. That's why I kind of kicked myself, but I really enjoyed that book. But I kind of kicked myself after I finished it, because I was like, that's just reinforcing all of your concerns and fears about how things are right now.
Yeah.
I probably, like, my next book is going to be, it's called This Is Your Brain on Music. So it's about like the science of how music impacts your brain. And that's what I'm going to read now, to try to I
love it.
Right. Get myself away from all that stuff, all the heaviness that it feels like there is, because music is that escape, right? That's what the gift that you can give to the world is, that you have this beautiful record coming out and you're able to share this beauty with people, and we can escape for a minute. What is I just was you've mentioned social media and I just brought up staring at our screens. What is your relationship like with social media and technology, and are you good at it? Do you balance it well? Does it consume you? How good are you with it?
To be honest, I really, really dislike social media.
Mm,
I feel that I have to be on there
mm,
to share, music updates and whatnot, and to connect with other musicians and fans. But I I can't stand the way that it makes me feel after um, I've been on it, and it's not so much seeing these posts on the different platforms. It's more so that you get sucked into it, and
mm,
you'll start, let's say it's 10 a.m. in the morning, you won't even realize where the time has gone, and next
mm,
thing you know, it's 10:45, and
mhm,
you've just lost 45 minutes of your day looking
mhm.
at who knows what. Does it even matter?
Yeah,
um,
probably the same things over and over again.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's so often what it is.
I hate it. So, I mean, I try to be on it as little as possible. Um, but I mean, there is a sort of responsibility, I guess, in a way, to be on there and to make sure all information is communicated and to respond to people.
Yeah.
I mean, what about
Yeah,
you?
it's a tough one because I think like the only one that I don't have a Facebook at all anymore. The Marinade doesn't have a Facebook. We did for a while, and it just stressed me out, and I don't feel like it was bringing it wasn't adding to the
Yep.
show. It wasn't adding to the brand. I didn't feel like I was reaching anybody that I wouldn't be reaching already. Maybe a few folks, and I'm sorry. I hope that they find another way to stay updated about the show, because I'm so accessible. That's the thing, is like you can get a hold of me. I mean, you can email me. You can send me a tweet. You can send me on Instagram a message. That's a lot of ways to get a hold of a person, right? Like, I'm pretty open with the phone number. You can call if you guys want to. Like, I'm pretty open about how you can get a hold of me. So the only one I have trouble with is Twitter, because I love it.
Oh,
I love it. I do. And like, I sometimes I've kind of finally come to grips with the idea, and I don't think I've mentioned this on the show, that I might be borderline addicted to Twitter. And so I'm working on that. So I've got new rules for myself where I don't get on social media till I get home. I don't check it in the morning.
that's great.
Yeah, I don't do it so I get home about 3:45 most days, and so at 3:45, 4 o'clock, I don't mess with it at all until then. And I break the rule every once in a while. Like today, we released an episode with Tennessee Jet, the songwriter, and on release day, I get really excited. So I want to check and see how people are reacting, right? So I broke the rules today,
That's
but
understandable, though.
right. But I think to your point though, like I do struggle with the idea of how much I should. I wish we were at a place with the Marinade where I could hire somebody to do the promotional stuff. We're not there at the moment, but the first time I can get there, I want to hire somebody to do it, just because I do find myself on there a lot, and I'm not real good at promotion. It's not something that I feel comfortable with, and nor do I think I'm any good at. So I don't like doing it, and I don't want to do it anymore. And I think
No,
that's part of, like, that'll keep you off of it quite a bit more. Like I find myself getting so frustrated, like you were talking about. If I sit down at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and I've got my book in my hand, and I've got a quiet moment with a cup of coffee or whatever, um, if my phone's within reach, I'm gonna check it,
yeah.
and if it's not, I won't think about it. So just developing those habits is something that I'm really working on.
No, I I love that you have a rule about when you decide this is the time you're allowed to start looking at it, because I think that those do help.
Mm,
And yeah, it's just so much time. And the worst part, I also hate just thinking about what it is to post. Like you mentioned, the promotional
mm,
aspect of everything. It's you know, you feel stupid in a way, like half the time.
Yes. Yes.
You're like,
Yes.
what am I doing? I feel so stupid
Yes.
putting this on
Why?
here.
Because I almost feel like I shouldn't feel that way because it's something that I put a lot of effort into. I mean, every episode is like there's research and I do the whole thing, you know, the editing, the booking, it's all me. So I put it all this time and energy. I love it. Like every episode, I'm so excited. I should want to go out and promote it, but like today, I made a post. I did one on Instagram and I'm trying to write about this episode and I was like, what am I supposed to say? It's awesome. Go listen to the damn thing. Like, it's just great. The guy's wonderful. But I don't want to try to sell you, you know?
No, we're on the same page, especially when you're communicating the same thing over and over again.
Right.
It gets stale.
Right. Well, this has been such a pleasure, and I'm so grateful for your time, and also so grateful for the record. In order of appearance, it comes out on October 16th. This episode will drop after that, but folks, when they hear this, if they haven't already, go get it. You got a great merch store they can go check out. They can get a vinyl copy. You got really cool t-shirt on there too. There's some really cool stuff there. Folks can support you. And I'm just really thankful for your time. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for having me. I had a great time.
Good. Awesome. My pleasure. All right. Have a wonderful night.
You too. So long.
Thanks. Bye.
A bad meaning without a family is why.
B.Miles, y'all. Thank you so much, Brenna. Thank you all for listening. This conversation was a blast, as you could probably tell by listening, and I'm so grateful to Brenna and all of you for making this happen. B.Miles.co for all things Brenna. MarinadePodcast.com to follow the Marinade. We're also on Instagram and Twitter, and we're pretty active on those two channels. Tell a friend about the show, rate us, and subscribe on your podcast app. Those free ways to help the show make a huge difference. But of course, if you can swing it, patreon.com/Marinade Podcast. If you want to support the show financially and connect on a deeper level than we maybe get to even through Twitter or Instagram or just by listening to the show. All right, y'all, it's time for what I'm getting down on, this segment of the show where I talk about the art that is inspiring me at the moment. I've been listening to the band Wartime Blues, one of those magical algorithmic discoveries. Just came on as I was auto playing. I don't even remember what. I was listening to some record, and Wartime Blues came on. Really cool stuff. They have a record called Doves and Drums that I'm really digging. Also, I've been heavy into Katie Pruitt's new record, Expectations. I listened to it when it first came out, but it's been on heavy rotation lately after BJ Barham mentioned it on social media. And then Northcote's record, Let Me Roar, which came out back in October. We're actually going to record with Northcote in just a couple of hours now. Just a little under 2 hours I get to sit down with him. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation and listen to that record, Let Me Roar. It's really good, and I highly recommend it. I've been watching, I just finished season 1 of The Good Lord Bird, starring Ethan Hawke as abolitionist John Brown. It's excellent. It's incredibly well acted, beautifully shot. It's very well written. It's one of those shows that, even though it's something that happened, of course, in the 1800s, there's so many lessons from those times that I think are important for us today. And as you watch it, I mean, John Brown was pretty crazy. but the links that he was willing to go to in furtherance of a cause that did not directly impact him necessarily, what he was willing to do forces a mirror on those of us who are living through the current civil rights movement and living through the current zeitgeist in the world where fascism is not creeping but rolling downhill fairly quickly in the United States and Europe, especially. And asking ourselves what we're willing to do, asking ourselves how far we're willing to go in furtherance of things we believe in. You know, for me, things like democracy, things like the Black Lives Matter movement, these things that shouldn't be controversial, that we should all be able to agree on. What am I willing to do? Am I willing to go to a protest? Well, I've talked a lot about that and how I handled that situation during the pandemic. And I think I could have done more and should have done more. I'm certainly willing to vote. Is that really that much of a stance? What am I willing to do in furtherance of things that matter a lot to me? And I think shows like The Good Lord Bird, when they're done that well and when they portray people in these transformative moments in modern history and what people were willing to do, I think it's really healthy to put that mirror up to yourself and say, all right, what are you willing to do? Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to be John Brown, nor do I think that's maybe even healthy the more I learn about him. But the man was willing to lay down his life and the life of his family in furtherance of the cause of ending slavery. Right? This means a white guy. I don't know if I'm, what am I willing to do? Am I willing to go so far as to lose my life over some of these things that I believe in and say I believe in? And how far do we need to go? What is each one of our roles in these incredibly important moments in the history of the United States right now? And so I'm grateful for the show for that. Plus, it's just really fucking entertaining. Y'all, thank you so much for listening. Speaking of entertaining, B.Miles, awesome conversation. I had so much fun, and I'm so grateful for Brenna's time and energy, and for all of you for listening. Until next time, go out and create something, everybody. Cheers, y'all.